I hadn't seen American Sniper since it came out, so that's like 11 years ago, right? But I watched it yesterday, and let me be honest from the get-go, it's a damn good movie. It's tense, it's brilliantly shot, it even tackles PTSD, mostly as a plot device. No spoilers here, no spoilers here. Well, maybe there'll be some spoilers. It's 11 years old. You gotta get over it. If you've been here before, I'm your host, MJ. Like and subscribe. If you've been here before, you know this channel isn't a Republican fascist channel. It's why I get regular comments like these, you know? And if you can decipher what this guy's saying, please let me know in the comments. If you have the Rosetta Stone edition, I missed this edition. If you have the Rosetta Stone edition of a literate lunatic in a personality cult, please translate that for us. But for a movie this well made by a seasoned director, there is one thing that is bafflingly cheap. It breaks the entire film. Of course, I'm talking about that fake baby, right? You know, and right now you're looking at the runtime of this video and saying, is he really going to talk about a fake baby for 30 minutes? And honestly, if I did, that would be hilarious. But we have better things to discuss in this film. This is an obvious fake baby standing in for a real one in a movie about an obvious fake hero standing in for a real one. And yes, after I saw this movie, I told a friend of mine I was going to do an episode on it. He said, dude, who cares? That movie is ancient. Nobody even knows who Chris Kyle is. Chris Kyle was. And yeah, it's true. I could be doing an episode right now on how the Supreme Court just handed Trump the keys to the kingdom for the 500th time, but sometimes, because we are very much in a dictatorship now. So sometimes you have to follow the yellow brick road of the psychosis that got us to this point if we're ever gonna figure out how to unravel it. Dude, why talk about this movie now? Chris Kyle was a guy who built his career on lies designed to fire up a right-wing audience, a right-wing base. The director is right here at the National Convention talking to an empty chair 2 years before he filmed this. Chris was tragically killed by a veteran who was suffering from the same exact PTSD that these wars caused, these 2 decades of Republican wars. He was someone who needed a hospital, not a gun, but Chris gave him a gun. And so what happened afterwards? What did the right-wing machine do? They canonized him. They whitewashed the lies and turned him into a saint to serve their agenda. Now I ask you this, I'm not going to spell it out because we've talked about it too much these last 2-3 weeks. I'm not going to spell it out. But the Republican Party, to take a lying demagogue who stroked grievances, whose own actions contributed to the way he died, to take that and then sell it back to them in myth form, right? So I told my friend, I said, yeah, I have no idea how that could possibly be relevant to today. The only scene that probably featured a real Chris Kyle was the one where he was beating his dog, which is why John Wick is in that final scene. Spoiler alert. And here's my problem as a movie lover, as someone who's been in the business. If Clint Eastwood would have just made up a fictional character, Rambo, the movie probably would be in my top 20. My top 20 movies of all time. Clint Eastwood, a sensational, one of the best directors. He didn't do that because in 2014, he had a very specific agenda. So what did he do? He called it a biography. He attached the legacy of a man whose own words paint him as a bloodthirsty ghoul, and he turned him into a tortured, God-fearing patriot. Why? 2014, the raw patriotism of the last decade had started curdling. It started getting a little bad. It started getting a little stinky. And it started becoming openly racist in a Tea Party movement. The slogan, "Support the troops," was shouted mindlessly to cancel anyone who questioned the forever wars we had been bogged down into. Not the first time Republicans called for cancel culture. And it wouldn't be the last time either. Rogan made a passing comment about the movie being similar to a propaganda sniper movie. shown in Inglourious Bastards. I could see that. I didn't need to freak out about that. But here you go, Nicole Wallace, still a Republican at that point. You know, my grandma turns into MSNBC and watches Nicole Wallace 8 hours a day, telling her, how did we get here? How did we get to this point? I don't know. Look in the mirror. And even Whoopi Goldberg tried to silence him.
I remember I emailed you the night that I saw this. It blew my mind. And you and I talked about the music. Incredibly important, beautiful movie. Seth Rogen, though, compared it to Nazi propaganda, tweeting, American Sniper kind of reminds me of the movie that's showing in the third act of Inglourious Bastards. It was a movie about Nazi propaganda. He later clarified, I actually liked American Sniper. It just reminded me of the Tarantino scene. Then Michael Moore tweeted, my uncle killed by snipers in World War II. We were taught snipers were cowards.
Michael Moore,
we will shoot you in the back. Snipers aren't heroes and invaders are worse.
So
they should conflate the two
gets
tweets,
to have an opinion because opinions are like buttholes. Everyone's got one.
Yes.
So you didn't like the movie? That's okay. We stood behind you, Seth, when you did your movie. And we said you had the right to make the movie you wanted to make.
Yeah.
Give them the same respect.
No, he still has a right to do that. So I want to show you, because it's this thing that like cancel culture started with blue-haired girls online getting James Gunn canceled, which was bad also. But cancel culture came a lot longer before that. Support the troops was the original cancel culture in this modern era. And like Seth Rogen back then, I never thought I'd be looking back to the wise words of Seth Rogen, but I don't want to talk about if the movie is good, because it is. Like Seth Rogen, I wanted to talk about what the cultural warhead it was. 2014 was nearly 12 years ago. I know it's hard to get back there, but during that time, it was a perfect storm of white nationalism, Christian nationalism, reality TV, Fox News, propaganda machine for the past 6 years had focused on one black president. That's all they were doing those whole 6 years if you were around. They were trying to ruin his presidency. And then social media really started getting its footing as a means for mass political propaganda.
Everyone is asking me to speak on Robert and Kristen. I don't have any time to say except Robert Dropper. She cheated on you and will again.
Wait, that's not the right tweet. That's not the one I'm looking for. Wouldn't it be nice if he was still relegated to just this space instead of us all living within this Kristen dump him? This is the one I'm looking for.
Extremely credible sources called my office and told me that Barack Obama...
He would have put Barack Hussein Obama if that would have been his, if he could have fed that into the username. That's where we were at in 2012, August.
Someone on an incredibly credible source has told me that Barack Obama's birth certificate is a fraud.
This is where we were. This is the mindset when this movie came out. 2 years before, when old Kankles was tweeting that out, Clint Eastwood brought up an empty chair at the Republican National Convention in 2012. And he pretended like he was talking to Obama. Look, we've all seen this at this point. This has been mocked, but this was definitely indicative of where the Republican Party was at and where they were headed. This wasn't just granddad yelling at the furniture. This was the mission statement for the movie Clint Eastwood would go on to make 2 years later. This was the mission statement for American Sniper. And I really want you to think about that Republican bubble today that doesn't let anything in, any facts in. And then I want you to realize this was 2012 and the Republicans were saying, we really only like talking to ourselves now. And we only define Democrats through the caricatures we have made for them. The thermostat in this bubble is perfect. That's why this is such an important thing of how we got here. And a lot, if not most, of what Clint Eastwood put into the movie American Sniper is indicative of this very viewpoint. It doesn't matter who Chris Kyle was, that's what he's telling you. And to further this, you could tell the parts that Clint Eastwood actually edited out completely of the movie, right? What Kyle himself said he did when he got home, which the movie very much covers. It covers him coming home 3 or 4 times in between tours. Because the story Chris tells is so completely psychopathic It's either the most deranged lie he ever told, or it makes him out to be one of the worst serial killers in U.S. history. So from Chris Kyle's own biography, the one the movie was allegedly based on Chris Kyle's life, here's a little post-Katrina vacation story. This is from Chris Kyle. He wrote this in his book. After Katrina, I was sent to New Orleans to help with security. A fellow SEAL and I went out in a boat and we motored up and down the streets. The city was completely flooded. We had a gunship posted on top of the Superdome. We had permission to go in and provide security and sniper overwatch, anything we saw. We had permission to engage. Punisher, so key. First day we were on top of the dome, we could see all the looting and the things that were going on, you know, the blacks. It was a pretty bad scene. It was horrible. I mean, you'd see people just walking out of stores. They weren't just getting food. They were getting TVs and stereos. He said they get TVs and stereos. We had a 2-mile plus radius. We could see everything. We were seeing people just hitting other people, stealing everything. So we started shooting. This is actually in Chris Kyle's book, okay? I'm not making this up. We were sent there to stop looters. It was a weird situation. We were there to protect the people, and that's what we did. I shot a guy who was trying to steal a truck. What? The driver of the truck had been shot, and this other guy was trying to take off? I shot him. He's Judge Dredd. In another incident, some guys had broken into a house. They were assaulting a woman. He uses the R word. I don't want to get thrown out of the algorithm because it seems like every little thing does it. They were doing that to a woman. I shot all of them through the house. He shot them through the window. We shot them. After it was all over, he's talking about Katrina. He's saying he was on top of the Superdome, just picking off people. You know what I mean? He says he killed over 30 people. In the book. Did it make it to the movie? Not this part. This literally happens in the middle of when we're following him in the movie. You know what I mean? This is a pretty crazy return home story. But Clint Eastwood chose to show his PTSD when he's at home, opposed to, I guess, shooting black people from the top of the Superdome. And why would Clint Eastwood make that decision? To not even have Chris mention this. You know, Sienna Miller could be like, where were you, honey? Oh, you know, shot 30 people on top of the Superdome. What's for dinner? It's spaghetti. And Clint Eastwood admitted this for obvious reasons. The most likely reason, it was a complete made-up story. No one else knows about this, right? No one else can verify it. No one was like, oh yeah, my cousin, he got shot by Chris Kyle when he was still in a stereo. Yeah, no one knows anything about it. So that's the most likely. And I want to remind you once again, Clint Eastwood is making a very specific kind of movie. Because the B option, let's pretend he's serious. Let's pretend this really happened. Dude comes off looking like a straight up serial killer, right? Just no judge, no jury, just Chris Kyle deciding 30 plus people's fate from the top of a stadium. This is insane to say.
Well, I was curious about what made him tick. I read the book.
So when you make a movie to silence a country that has been questioning the 8 years of these quagmire wars, it would probably be bad to include either A, a liar, or B, a complete psychopath. And Eastwood was reading the book, is like, nah, let's just focus on his marriage problems. Let's just show him holding that fake baby instead of where this would go in. It's much more relatable. And my next point of why this movie operates this way is this is not a war movie, right? This isn't Saving Private Ryan. This isn't The Thin Red Line. It's very clearly a Western. In the ways they talk, in the ways they communicate, it's cowboys and Indians. The cowboys have the better guns than the Indians, who are just living on top of the oil, right? Back in the Westerns, they were just living on top of the land that they wanted to live on. Now they're living on top of the oil. And throughout the book, and even included in the movie, Chris Kyle calls them savages. Women, children, it doesn't matter. They were all savages to him. Very early on in the movie, Chris's daddy gives him the sheep, wolves, and sheepdog speech. Now, I'm going to show the video. I don't think I can show the video and the sound because Warner Brothers will over-block it, and YouTube does little to protect creators from giant studios, you know, infringing on our right to critique and to show a movie. So I'm just going to show the video. Hopefully that's good. And it's a good reason why you should give our sponsors a try, because when this happens, when we get demonetized, at least, sponsors can keep episodes like this from happening. We open the shot on the Bible. Chris has got into a fight, right? He's got into a fight at school saving his brother. His brother's all messed up. And the speech his dad gives him, honestly, was much better in Team America. And like I said, I don't know what the algorithm does to me, but you guys know the speech I'm talking about, with the D's, F and the P's, and sometimes the D's have to F the A's. Yeah, go watch it. It's one of the greatest speeches ever in Team America. But he gives a much worse version of that. I would have liked to seen verbatim the Team America speech. Chris's dad says there's 3 types of people, Chris. There's sheeps, there's wolves, and there's sheepdogs. Now, some people prefer to believe that evil doesn't exist in the world. And if they're ever darken their doorstep, they wouldn't know how to protect themselves. Those are the sheep. Those are the sheeple. And then you got the predators. They use violence to prey on the weak. They're the wolves, Chris. And then you got those who are blessed. All right, here we go. We're getting into it. They are blessed by the Christian God, very specifically the Christian God. They are blessed with the gift of aggression and overpowering need to protect the flock. I remember Jesus talking about that. He said, we need a sheepdog to protect us. And then he tipped over a table. These men are a rare breed who live to confront the wolf. They are the sheepdog. And we're not raising any sheep in this family, and I'll whoop your ass if you turn into a wolf. And then he stands up and he's about to beat his kid to show him that violence is bad. Violence is bad, and I'll beat you with this belt to prove it, Chris. It's the perfect logic pretzel of the Christian nationalist brain, right? It's exactly the way they think. But mom, at the risk of getting slapped herself, steps in and says, no, he only used as much violence as necessary. He's a Christian white man. He can control it and turn it on when he needs to. And because Chris didn't actually murder the other kid, Dad puts his belt away. Great family, great story, great meatloaf, Mom. And that opening scene on the Bible, while saying Chris knows how to control his violence. You wonder why he called them savages, right? Dehumanizing them. Because in this context, American Christians fighting Muslims was a direct nod to Christian nationalism, with the dad saying that as a good Christian, although they have violence in their heart, unlike the savages, they're measured with it. And to further that this was a Western, to further that it was more, propaganda, Clint Eastwood even went as far to make up an Iraqi Olympic sniper that was going against Chris, right? They were having all these fights together. The Iraqi sniper was killing all his friends. He was about to get married, and then they shot him, the Iraqi sniper, and they named him Mufasa. Oh, not that Mufasa. Everything the light touches, Simba. Is that a Saddam Hussein? Is that a Saddam Hussein Mufasa? Not that Mufasa, this Mufasa. So what is the antithesis of the Christian who only uses violence when he needs to? What does he carry? Of course he carries a Quran. Chris carries a Bible. This dude carries a Quran. Is it on the nose enough for you, Chuds? And unlike a war movie with a message at the end, saving Private Ryan, we gave all these lives to save one life. Unlike that, he just has a final showdown with the other sniper, just like a Western, at high noon. Western movies, since their inception, have been a way to glorify the American cowboy, have been a way to glorify what we did to indigenous people, right? And they were always personified. Back in the day, the older ones, the spaghetti Westerns, they got a little bit better. They deviated away from this mostly because they weren't American movies. But they always had like an American Christian, a good guy who was just too good at shooting, didn't want to be chosen to do it, but was forced to because of the savageness. And before Clint Eastwood decided he wanted to be overtly political, he made Unforgiven, which highlighted the emptiness of this trope. This myth is exactly what groups like the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers latched onto, right? Most of them were too busy cosplaying G.I. Joe in their mom's basement to actually join the military like Chris. So, good on him for actually joining the military and not wearing tactical gear and trying to kidnap the governor of Michigan. But to those people who watch Clint Eastwood talk to an empty chair as a character of Obama, placing it in their mind. And I'll tell you what, the character they put Obama as on that chair, while I'm not even going to say what it was, while Clint Eastwood was talking to him, is very evident. You know, this got into their brains that even though they're losers, they're still protectors of the white Christian race. They're still civilized people. And if you ever talk to them, they talk this way. They say, just wait, you know. Just wait. The liberals don't even know what they've done now. They don't even know what they've started. That is the sheepdog speech. Hyper-patriotism, marrying hyper-Christianity as a means of returning to some fake nostalgic past, I don't know, somewhere in the 1950s. This movie was a key ingredient in creating this empty, vapid, chud archetype. The exact guy today who gets a Punisher skull tattoo on his forearm and a Blue Lives Matter sticker on his truck. Trump and Jesus, that's all I need. Chris Kyle would have been head of the Proud Boys if he was just born at a different time. He would probably, if he was around today, he would probably be a member of ICE with Dean Cain. And aptly so, he is credited with the chuds, especially the cops, that wear this Punisher logo. You know, they put it on their uniforms. The Punisher, a character who explicitly hates cops and vigilantes who use this logo. The Punisher literally tells cops, I only exist because you're terrible at your job. But the irony is lost on them. Because they're talking to empty chairs. No one's there to tell them, you know what I mean? In the movie, Kyle makes fun of a guy for reading a comic. He walks in, he's like, what are you doing? The guy's reading a Punisher comic. He's, that's dumb. Why don't you go outside? Then he adopted that logo from that comic because it looks cool. He didn't read it. I don't even know if Chris Kyle could read. He didn't read it. And there is nothing more Republican than seeing a piece of art, completely missing the point of that art, and then turning that into a bumper sticker for people, Punisher, cool. And then in this Marine training scene, right? Chris is on the range. He can't hit a target. He's got both eyes open. And so the guy tells him, close your other eye there, bud, so you can hit the target. And Chris says, well, if I close my other eye, I can't see what's out there. The guy says, there's nothing out there but the target. Well, now you can return. And then he says, if you could see something out there, go ahead and punch it, or you're going to give me 50 push-ups. And then Chris whips his gun around and he shoots a snake that's 700 yards away, right? The guy says, how'd you hit that? How'd you do that? And Chris Kyle says, I'm only good at shooting things when they're breathing. Maybe the most written by a 14-year-old edgelord character trait I've ever seen put into a movie. I can't practice on the range, sir. I need to kill breathing things. Punisher, Punisher, Punisher. And this is all designed to justify who Chris Kyle really was, right? It's all here. Even the opening scene where his first kill, the first kill of the movie, the first kill they say he has is a woman and child. They set this scene up to say, see how hard this is for him? The impossible choice. I want to kill things that are breathing, sir. It's a masterstroke in normalizing as a means of dismissal of Kyle's real behavior. Any blowback to the movie. Well, we included it. We included how hard it was for him to shoot women and children. See, this woman and this child are savages. They're carrying a grenade toward the Marines. You know, what's he gonna do? This is an impossible choice. And let's be honest, today's Republican Party, Pete Hegseth, the people that let this guy out, Eddie Gallagher, for killing women and children, for messing with their dead bodies. Yeah, that's who they pardoned and let back into the Navy. Yeah, nice. Let's be honest, today this scene would have no drama. It would just be a normal scene. The Chuds would be like, what's the holdup? Well, light him up, Chris. But back in 2014, we still frowned upon this stuff. So it needed a lot of, context. It needed a lot of subtext to be put in there. Because today's modern Republican Party, they don't care about kids anywhere besides here. They don't care about kids on an island being fed to billionaires. And I take back the first part. They don't even care about kids here. They don't even want to feed American kids that live here. So this is a party that no longer cares about kids. So light him up, Punisher. And Chris's confirmed kills are a lot different than the official one. He said he killed over 255 people. The military says 155 people. But honestly, I believe Chris, because the military was probably cutting out all the kids and women he shot. He called them savages. To him, women and children were just coyotes, right? They were just breathing target practice, as he says in the movie. Punisher, Punisher, Punisher. So sloppy how the movie sells it. He's talking to Sienna Miller once, his girlfriend, and she asks him all doe-eyed. She says, hey, Chris, this is before I guess he's killed anybody, right? Before they've shipped him off. Chris, how will you do it? If it comes down to shooting someone, how you gonna do it? The guy who just told his drill sergeant. The guy who just told the sniper guy, I can only shoot things when they're breathing. And he looks at her. And instead of saying a line that would be much more appropriate, something like Apocalypse Now, where the guy says, how do you kill women and children? And the guy says, I just give them more lead when I'm shooting. That's much more of a Chris Kyle line. But instead he says, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Our hero, the man who bragged about killing 30 people in New Orleans, looks her dead in the eyes and says, that's the part I fear the most. Punisher, Punisher, Punisher. The oldest trope in the Western genre, the reluctant killer who's just too good at killing, never meant to be a bad man. I just had a fast hand. Ain't gonna be nothing in hell I haven't lived through here, and I'm just gonna walk out. Yeah, tonight I'll save your life. I never meant to be a bad man. I just had a fast hand, which is a lyric from a guy I really like, Cody Jinks. I hope he doesn't come out with like a Republican song eventually, because it seems like that's the trend. Oldest, tiredest trope in the Western genre playbook. It's the oldest, tiredest trope in the American playbook. Clint Eastwood read of this biography prologue. Chris Kyle had the world's largest penis. Clint Eastwood tells him, we're going to need the wide lens for the next shot. What about this Superdome? Nah, we're cutting that out. You know what I mean? Taking an unreliable narrator's word as gospel instead of as a critique is just bad writing. Actually, it's more than that. It's lazy writing. It's good directing. The movie's great. Whatever character they were shooting, very interesting character, but that's not who they were attaching this to. And that's why I really wanted to talk about it, because this movie, this myth, it laid groundwork. It helped to breed the Chuds. It showed them the pathway to silence anyone who stepped out of line. Support the troops. Support the troops. You hate America. You hate America. The left hates America. Eventually they started saying it so long in their bubble that it's their only reality now. Just ask the Dixie Chicks their views on cancel culture. See if they blame it on a blue-haired girl on Twitter, right? The original hashtag was not Me Too. It was a yellow ribbon right here. And it was hashtag shut the f up, right? Which translated to the slogan, support the troops. And to me, that's what Clint Eastwood robbed us of. His skill as a director. Mystic River. I don't know about that Cry Macho movie, but Mystic River, that, he really could have took the real Chris, a compulsive liar who was completely off the rails, shooting women and children and calling them savages to justify it. He could have took that, somehow blended that into a fascinating anti-hero story. But instead, what did he do? We have a 2-hour movie about someone else. It's a great movie, but it's about someone else. It's not a Chris Kyle movie. The Chud Report.
Shadows tremble in the haze, heartbeat pounds in restless waves, storm is coming.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. To the members, thank you for signing up. If it's your first time here and you don't mind me talking about an 11-year-old movie, go ahead and subscribe. Like I said, this movie's going to get dinged up by Warner Brothers. So if you really want to support more, try Aura. It's free for 2 weeks. What do you have to lose? Come back. Tell me what it's like. The Chud Report.
And the people who, if you actually spend time with me, you find out I'm just a fun-loving guy. Now, yes, I have been trained to be a little more aggressive if I need to be, but I don't go around thumping people.